The end of one season is the start of another. This is the season recap. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 13 of the Dude Where My Card podcast, where we primarily evaluate strategy card games from both a game designer's and a regular gamer's perspective. As always, my name is Brendan, and I am joined with my co-host Jordan. In today's episode, we are looking back on everything we have talked about in our first season of the podcast.
Yeah, all 12 games that we've reviewed. Kind of wanted to take a step back, look at them, review.
It's already been 12 weeks.
Yeah, it goes by quick.
Well, I guess it hasn't been 12 weeks. Our first 3 episodes were released at once. But still, we've done this for over 2 months now, and we've got a compilation of 12 different games we've talked about, and it's good to get a chance to go back and revisit those and talk about if things have changed, as well as gives us a chance to start over fresh in a new season with new ideas of how we can do things better and cleaner.
Yeah, and I mean, midway through this season, we did changes to the way...
those of you who have joined us since the beginning will have experienced multiple venue setups and multiple audio quality issues and even video quality issues. And we've had our fair share of videos that didn't record very well in quality, which we never showed you guys. And we've had interviews gone awry that we lost. So it's been a learning experience for both Jordan and I, and we're excited to say goodbye to season 1 and start afresh with season 2, where
we won't make any mistakes.
No, never. Especially when it comes to speaking.
Yeah, my name is Brendan. He's Jordan.
Yes. Sorry, that should have been the intro for this. Let everyone get the recap of this. Cue the video.
All right, so we kind of we'll start off. We want to jump into our game reviews. I kind of wanted to revisit, look at if we've played these games since and seen if maybe they need adjustments, if we maybe didn't accurately describe it on our initial look.
See, the funny thing is we're going to look at this and we're going to have some high replayability games and be like, I haven't played that since we talked about it. Is the replayability really that high?
Yeah. I mean, we're busy. Obviously, life goes on.
We got this. We got our own design stuff to do. And
we really, a lot of the times we do, unfortunately, focus on our games because we're pushing to try to create something that is, hopefully going to come out to people. So we're really trying to focus on that.
It takes many hours to put into a game, as we talked about with Keneal with Black Noir.
Yeah, and we're trying to...
Mage Noir. Black Mage. Mage Noir.
Mage Noir. But we want to try to get it out there and try to, get as much info out there. And part of it, this podcast is a great iteration for us to review games and design them, which allows us to take a step out of our own games and look at some other ones, which helps us go back into our own designs. Yeah. And then on top of that, we're trying to stream our designing efforts and try to show off what we're doing in marketing and take what we've learned from some of these designers and try to implement in our life as well. Right off the hop, I want to touch base with what was our number one most highly scored game. Do you think it would deserve that rating out of the 12 games that we did? Brendan, what was your highest scored game?
Bait and Kados, 49 out of 50.
Do you think that it deserved that number one rating for you?
Deserve the number one rating? Yes.
Okay.
Should it have been a 51 out of 50? Absolutely, but I am too logical for that.
So, looking at my scoring, I have a tie at 44. I have Magic the Gathering, big surprise. But in Hero Realms, I'm actually going to take the slot of number 1 because it isn't as massive as the game as Magic, but it's still scored as good as Magic on my rubric. So, I'm going to give my number 1 spot to Hero Realms. And do I think Hero Realms deserves that? Oh, 100%.
And Hero Realms is my number 2 out of 47. So, we're not too far off. My bias for Bait and Kados is your bias for Magic. Both these games are higher on our individual ratings than it would be if we were to take a true score from my Magic the Gathering and a true score from your Bait and Kados.
Yeah, and match it. But I do want to point out too, our most recent one, Mage Noir, also scored really high for me. Yes. I have it as, if I'm not counting these two, it is my next closest at 43. And I do believe that all those games deserve the score that they got. So
Mage Noir for me is also at a 43. It makes it 4th.
So I think that
that's still extremely strong. If we're scoring something above a 40, it's a very, very potent game.
So while we're talking about the score, so Hero Realms number 1, deserving. Bait and Kados number 1, deserving. Interesting.
Very happy with that.
A digital card game and a tabletop card game for us for the first season. I'm pretty impressed with that Bait and Kados, but it was a good game.
And then we go back. Have you played Bait and Kato since we talked about it?
A little bit, yeah, I have. Because
so why?
Yeah, so.
Have you played Hero Realms since we talked about it?
I haven't had a chance to see anybody, so.
That's why Bait and Kato's number one. I don't need to see anyone to kick some ass.
So, let's jump back into our very first episode. What was our very first one, B? Do you remember?
That was Digimon, I believe. No, that was... Yes, it was Digimon, wasn't it?
Digimon Card Game TCG 2020, Episode 1.
Yes.
Looking at it, I have it rated a 38 out of 50.
Yep.
I have it as a cash or trash. I actually have it as a to be determined because I needed to see what was going to happen with this game.
Yep.
And since then, nothing has actually happened because the world is still standing still.
They've actually recently released set 1.5, so they're still playing and progressing through that. We just haven't played and progressed with it.
A lot of this cash or trash is going to come down to how we feel when this game is able to be played in a tournament setting. Mm-hmm. So it does still sit at the TBT for me. I think a lot of these are fair score. I think the replayability is probably dropped, but we talked about that even in original review. It dropped because of the lack of being able to play it in a tournament setting. So I think it sits pretty much. It might be a slightly lower score, but I think I'm still going to stand by that it is still.
Yeah, I did a 39 also. It's kind of in the middle for me. It's a good game. If you don't play it, you don't play it. It's all right to watch videos of people playing it to understand how it is and to get along with it. And like at this point, I'm already looking at selling off the cards that I have. Yeah. Because we don't play it enough. I don't think I'll ever be playing it enough.
And by the time you can,
the hype was a lot of fun, but it's hard to maintain that hype in a digital world that we live in right now because there's no physical contact for the most part.
Yeah, and the small group of setting, everybody would have to be getting into it to be able to play, and the cards are not accessible as I would like them to be.
Yeah. Especially
for the starters, so it just kind of loses that. Number 2 for us was our Duel Master TCG. It was rated as a trash at 28 out of 50. I do see that I corrected a bunch of my scores while going through it, so I'm going to probably still stand by that. I think that there's a lot of design potential in this game, but it is a dead IP. The cards are...
As the third lowest score for me at a 31 out of 50, I also rated it trash. There's a lot of fun elements to it, and I'm sure you'd still gain value out of it from playing it, but it's just not a great game anymore. It's a slow-paced, outdated resource system.
Yeah, so I think it sits there still in that cache. Next, we have Eternal Chronicles of the Throne, rated at 3. My final score of this game was 42, cash or trash. It was clearly cash for me. I think I might have been... I probably could have given some more points to complex. I don't know. We're looking at this. I think it's probably accurate. I mean, I rated Hero Realms at 44. This game is 42. I think
it's still probably a cash game. There's absolutely no way.
I think it's pretty much on par with it. I think it's a great game. So I think I was still accurate in my description.
I have Eternal as a 46, which is close to my Hero Realms 47, and I do think Hero Realms was the better game, so it makes sense to me.
Yeah. Number 4. Our 4th episode, which was Monster Rancher Battle Card Game. Hopefully we didn't swap these out too much in the actual when we uploaded them, but I rated it trash at 27. Had a bad experience. It is a digital card game. Outdated, some cool mechanics from a design perspective, but as a gamer, I think it just wasn't really worth your time.
And I rated it as a 39 just because I have a bit more invested into this game. I enjoy the IP. It's still a fun game, and I think there's still so much potential from that game that someone could build upon and create something cool. It's just difficult to do that in a way that people will relate to and want to jump in on. Yeah, 39 cash to me, but it definitely won't be everyone's cash, that's for sure. I totally recognize that it's another slow-playing game.
Yeah.
That... if you're not willing to invest the time into playing, it's going to hurt.
Like you'll notice, we have similarities, but we do differential in some of our favorite types of games. Like I said, in this most recent one that we did with Gwent, you do see the difference of you very much enjoy those non-combat based systems or more strategy based ones, which makes sense. Number 5 for us, Magic the Gathering. I see replayability at 10. I have played this game since several times, so I obviously... It definitely still sits in there. I actually fell in love with a recent deck styling that Magic released. It's a comic book art style for monsters of a recoloring art. Super excited to find out that A, none of my friends have even heard about it. B, all the recolors are full art, and C, they were all less than $1 a card because nobody plays that type. So I basically built a deck that no one plays but looks cooler than anyone else's deck. So still in it. I rated it 44. It is tied for my top, justifiable, and still sits as one of my favorite games of all time. So Cash.
I have a replayability as a 4 for Magic. I haven't played it. It should be a 1 for me, but I can't just give something a 1 because I don't like it. I still rated it Cash. It was a 30 out of 50 for me.
I mean, you can't ignore what it is, right?
Yeah.
And we talk about it in a lot of the episodes of what's bad about this game, but there's a lot of what's good. And
our episode of talking about Magic was quite long because we did have to talk about just the size, the grandiose of this game when it comes to the whole design space, really.
And what it led to in the future. It was a stepping stone for many, many games.
Yeah.
Let's make sure I get this next one right. Number 6 I have as Pixel Tactics.
Yes.
Is that still correct?
That is correct, and I know I can go to the bottom and pull that one out because that's my lowest scoring game.
So Pixel Tactics, looking at it, this was another one of those games that we did not completely agree on all points. We kind of had some different playable experiences. I enjoyed it more than him.
Yep.
But we both kind of came to a lower score. I have it out of 36 for me.
I have a 22. I am very low. This to me was
really didn't
a fail of
enjoy
the
this.
game. Yeah, I would not buy this. I would not tell anyone to buy this.
So that was a trash for you.
That was a trash.
Mine was a caveat of an or. So this one is a trash at the base set for most people that would purchase it of the, looking at the deluxe version, which I did. I see the value. I had enjoyment of it. I do see the fall off.
Have you played it since?
I haven't played most of these games since. I haven't had a gaming crew to play them.
But if you've played Magic,
the cost
then you've had an opportunity to play this, and you chose Magic over this.
It's true.
So is 7 too high for your replayability?
Yes. Looking at the replayability should be lower. But I did have the caveat on here because the single base set, the first version of Trying, was only, I think, $15 to get into it. Yeah. So I did say that, yes, this game isn't going to be for everybody. So I didn't rate it completely as Cash because we played it. We had 2 different experiences.
Yep.
I favored it. You didn't. So I do have to recognize that this game isn't for everybody. But the intro to try it out and see if it is one of your games was very low. So I thought that it was worthwhile if it was something that interests you from our description. But yes, it wasn't. It probably would score lower if I looked at it again now. But I still stand by that. The intro was very cheap to start and see if it is your type of game. Number 7, Hero Realms.
Not much needs to be said about this.
We
Go
talked
back
about
and
it at
listen
the
to
start.
the episode. Like, this is a great game.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong.
Deserves a score through and through.
If we would have given it 50s, I don't think either of us would have complained about it scoring a 50.
Nope.
It's a solid game.
Again, one of those games that, even though it wasn't combat based, it still hit that niche for both of us.
Yeah.
So it was a good balance. Number 8, Baten Kaitos, Eternal Wings of the Lost Ocean. 42 out of 50, so it's still rather high for me.
And you have played it since, which is definitely impressive for someone who picked it up for an old GameCube game.
Yeah, the emulators. So
yeah, and it's an emulator of all things too. It's not like it's an actual GameCube game. I'm sure if you had it on a GameCube, you might have played it more because it's a lot more fun with the controller.
With the controller, but even playing and caveat this even further that I am not a PC gamer. I do not use my keyboard and mouse to game. I am a controller through and through. So the fact that I still went back to playing it on a keyboard and mouse shows you that I
use a
interest.
Xbox controller on my computer, so I still play with controller.
Okay, that makes sense because that would be easier. But I still played it through by going through the keyboard and mouse, which is not my preference at all, and I still got through that to continue playing because it was a good game. So I think it deserves exactly the score. 42 is fair. 49 is biased, but
yeah. But also, if someone is listening to this and they didn't watch that episode because they have no idea what it is, go back and take a look at it. Because, look, even Jordan, who had no idea what it is, give it a 42 out of 50.
Yeah.
It's an old GameCube game, but there's still tons of fun value there, and it's worth anyone to check out.
I agree. I'm trying to sell your game more.
Yep.
Number 9, I have as Keyforge.
There it is. Good old Keyforge.
Keyforge, interesting game. Newish game with some interesting concepts and redesigns. I obviously changed my score. This was one that we had recorded at the very beginning. It was supposed to be episode 6.
That was one of our quality audio and quality video.
That we
I think it was a combo.
Scrapped.
It was a bad video.
We scrapped it completely and redid it. So even in between that time, I re-looked at my review of it and I had changed it. I think that my changes stand. I think what I had changed it to is an accurate description. 41 out of 50. There's lots to this game and lots of potential growth. And even though we personally might not be as invested in it. I do see there's so much to it, and when I did jump back in,
and there are lots of people who still are very invested in this game and absolutely love it. So there's nothing wrong with that. I give it a 36 out of 50. It's not something that I would always seek out to play, but if someone were to bring a deck over and say, "Hey, let's play a game of Keyforge," yeah, why not?
You'll take Keyforge over Magic.
Absolutely.
So that has to go right away. So it was a cash again.
Okay, I was going to say, I'll take my bottom game over Magic, and I realized it was Pixel Tactics, and I changed my mind. That would have been bad. I'll take Magic over Pixel Tactics every day.
So jumping into episode 10, which was Questros for us.
Our first Kickstarter.
Our very first Kickstarter interview with Wes. Currently active. I think it's active for maybe 8 more days. He did a short 2-week window of backing.
Yes, I still believe they are just below funding at this point.
He was at 50% last I checked. Interesting game.
So if you have the time, go check out the episode, and if it sounds like a game that's interesting to you, check it out on Kickstarter, give him a back, because that's important.
Help him get there. It's a very interesting game. It is a tarot deck that he has incorporated some gameplay into it in a multiplayer
Hey, pulled out the white word, tarot.
Oh, tarot. My bad. We talked about this personally.
Normally that's me whipping out the tarot.
Yeah. So since then, we talked about how much of a fan of the tarot I am. In fact, since then I got my tattoo.
Yes.
Tarot. But
tarot.
But we talked about it a lot. I think there's a lot of value to the game. He's asking a very fair price for it. Please check it out if you're interested at all. Our review of it, I have it a 38 out of 50 because of the 4 options of the gameplay, I saw 3 that were interesting to me personally.
Yeah.
So I personally would rate it as a back or cash. And that was just because it was, we're trying to look at what we would personally choose.
And I put it as a 34. It was a neutral game for me. It had some good, it had some bad. And I wouldn't get full use out of it, so I didn't say it was trash to not back it. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't for me. There wasn't enough out of it for me for the price point.
Yeah, and when we're trying to look at the Kickstarter, we're trying to see if we would back it or not more than... And honestly, we should, even if these games were bad, we would tell you. They would be trash.
Yeah.
If they're kind of neutral, but we wouldn't back them, we'll still say that, but we're not going to give it the cash unless we're dedicating to it. And for me, I'll back this game. I have. So it's a cash. Number 11, our other Kickstarter interview, Mage Noir with Camille, or Constantin Didier. I don't know. Didier. We'll butcher it. Sorry, my fault. We rated it. I have a 43 out of 50, so this rates at the 3rd best game that I've rated that we've looked at. I believe that this game will deserve a higher scoring in the future.
This game was a pleasant surprise for me, where even when I saw it initially, I didn't think much of it, and as we started to dive in more, and then you set up an interview with Camille about it, it was like, okay, this game has a lot more potential than I would have thought, and
a lot of stuff to take away as a designer that they did well, that we plan to, run with as well. He's given us inspiration from his own game, which you've always got to stand really good feet is when your game gives other designers inspiration and want to run with, that it's a good game.
Yeah.
Magic has done that for so many people, and Magic inspired Mage Noir. And Mage Noir is going to continue, I think, to inspire further games. So
it's definitely worth checking out that episode if you haven't already. Definitely worth checking out that game if you haven't already.
Yeah, it's still active. It's funded, so if you back it, you're going to be getting your copy.
At this point, they're just adding more cool stuff to the game as the more backers they get because they have so many.
You're getting cool full arts, and you're getting splashes of other colors that you wouldn't have. So this game is it's blowing up, and it's very worth backing if you can. So it was a cash. It was a guaranteed back for both of us.
Yeah.
And I think in the future, if we ever look back, this game will be rated higher once we actually can experience the full game, not just a version of it.
Yep.
Side note, kind of interesting, is how I talked about we only had access to the wind and vegetation.
Yes.
With these unlocked backers, if you have a backed copy, you get the print and play for the other versions now. So you could print and play the full version.
I'm not a huge fan of print and play,
I know,
personally.
But they still allowed people to play the full game before it came out. Which leads us to our final and most recent episode, which was Gwent.
The Witcher card game.
The Witcher card game. 34 out of 50 for me.
Yeah, and I was 39. I was just a little bit higher.
And I rated it trash. I didn't think it was really worth your time at this point.
And I was neutral on it. It could be good, it could be bad. All
From
depends
a designer,
on
I think
where
you
your
said...
stance is as a gamer at this point. If you have a game you want to invest into, it's not a bad option. There are better out there, though.
Yeah. So, looking back at all 12 episodes, I thought that we actually rated everything pretty fairly.
Mm-hmm.
I stand by most of what we said, some tweaks, but that's obviously going to happen as time passes, and we can't play them as often as we'd like, or can't get together. I know before everything kind of went to shit, we were planning for, a monthly game night where we all would get together and be able to play so that we could re-experience games like this and continue to experience. Unfortunately, that still isn't possible. Hopefully it will be one day. Until then, we just continue to do our weekly tabletop and play and design. So, although replayability is based on what we think it would be and how much I would want to play it once we can, it's hard because we haven't had a chance to really, unfortunately, replay it.
It's hard to replay every game we talk about because there's other games we have to play and test before we can even talk about them again.
So it's more of my desire to want to replay. So that's part of what we will look at going into our next season is we need to consider the ability of are we going to even be able to replay these games? Mm-hmm. So we should maybe rate it as something.
Yeah, there's going to be some rubric adjustments to try and refine what we're trying to get across in terms of information for our listeners and our viewers on YouTube.
Yeah.
Just so that everyone is kind of in the same boat of why we think games are worthy of their score or not, or why games should be picked up or why they shouldn't be picked up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, other than that, like our setup now is pretty static. We're happy with where we're at from our multiple changes of locations, and I really can't complain. I think we've come a long way in these first 12, 13 episodes, and
I think the drastic change had happened very suddenly, and I think it was positive, and there's been a lot of good help.
There's lots of quality tweaks we will be making for upcoming seasons that viewers won't necessarily get to see or interact with, but they'll experience it when the final product comes out.
And if we can continue some growth, we'll always look at, audio. We can look at our dynamic mics rather than the compressions. There's other things we can look at, but I think for what we have available to us right now, I think I'm happy with the setup we have.
Yep.
And we'll continue going from there with this visually on YouTube and audio based we'll make sure that it's clear. We'll work on that.
Yeah. And we promise no messed up interviews on our part.
Yes, we've got that fixed.
That's disappointing.
And we will definitely, we'll make it up to our guests that we failed to get successful with in the future.
Yep.
Going into our next season, Brennan mentioned, we're going to look at tweaking the rubric a little bit more to try to make it clearer about why we think these games are cash or trash.
Yep.
Why we think that you should pick them up and play them, or if you have interest in it, you should play it, or why not. We'll tweak it a little bit. I do like the total scoring. I do like a lot of the categories. I think the cash or trash will stay. Yeah, definitely. That will stay. We'll refine it a touch. Interviews. I will continue to work on getting interviews with designers of games, whether they're Kickstarter or whether they're established.
Yep.
I think it's very helpful to get the opinions from these designers. And personally, as struggling designers ourselves, I find the interviews very good. I find lots of helpful tips in them. So I hope that conveys to any other potential designers that might be listening as well.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to look at a lot of these games that are more themed towards the battle system into Season 2.
Yes,
combat-driven strategy card games are still going to be the focus. We will continue
to go to the digital. We'll still continue to look at video games if we have the option to.
Mm-hmm.
But we will also, of course, stick to our tabletop versions of games when we are able to.
Yeah. Kickstarters, we're going to continue trying to get as many Kickstarters out there. We are, we generally work on a month-to-month basis for our plan of what we want to work on. So if there's anybody that watches these and would like a review of something that they've stumbled across that we haven't done, or any potential designers out there that love their game reviewed before it goes live, reach out to us. Send us through Twitter, through email, whatever you can contact, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you want to contact us through, just to be like, hey, I would love a review of this game. Even if you're not a designer of it, I'm curious about this, because we want to work with you guys as well to kind of, what you guys want to know about, we'll try to dive into.
Mm-hmm.
That's our hopes and plans for Season 2. Is there any little thoughts or tidbits and changes that you want to touch on, Brendan?
No, we've kind of covered everything pretty good. Season 2 will be a nice fresh start for us, where it should be pretty much the same thing the entire way through, and hopefully a better experience than Season 1, even though Season 1 was pretty good for us.
Consistent.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you.
See you in Season 2.
Thank you for tuning in to the DWMC podcast, a Paragon Professional Services production. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any comments or concerns about what you have heard, send us an email, contact@paragonstudiosmb.com. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you consume your podcasts, and leave a comment with a 5-star review if you feel so inclined. For those of you watching on YouTube, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below.